Welcome back, everybody, to the Freelance Network Podcast, a podcast by content creators for content creators. Cassie would like to address you, though.
Okay, so if you're watching this podcast, you can probably tell Luke and I are wearing the same exact outfits as the last episode we just had with Jimmy Ward.
That's because we wear the same clothes every single day.
We literally never leave here. We wear the same clothes every day. It's whatever, but that's how production works. If you're listening to it, just ignore everything I just said.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
But anyways, so Jimmy brought along one of the most cool people I've ever met with him from California.
Oh, stop it, you.
So Jimmy talked about how he went to San Francisco State University, and while he was there, he met Mira. And I remember one time FaceTiming Jimmy, and Jimmy was like, "Hey, Luke, this is Mira." And she was just the most energetic, funny person from a FaceTime call only. I was just like, she's awesome. And then eventually Jimmy brought her over to the East Coast. Now you've been here a bunch. You're like an adopted child of New Jersey.
I'm a Jersey girl, baby.
Yes.
I'm a Jersey girl.
California raised, adopted by New Jersey. But Mira does all kinds of cool creating stuff as well. So Mira, why don't you tell the people what you do?
Hello, people. It's a pleasure to see your shining faces somewhere out there. Well, I am working as a production assistant on CBS's The Talk, a talk show starring 5 lovely women whose names are all long, so I won't name each of them individually. But yeah, it's funny actually, because Jimmy and I both ended up on talk shows as PAs, kind of just fell into our lives. Who knew we'd be sitting here talking about talk shows?
Talking about talk shows.
Hashtag couple goals.
Yes.
Relationship goals achieved at last. Yeah, I don't know where to start. We met at San Francisco State our freshman year, back in the olden days. And Jimmy's actually kind of what got me. Not kind of, he is what got me into this field. I was a journalism major, photojournalism specifically. That's kind of was what I thought my life would be for my life. I was like a yearbook photographer in like middle school, and like I really liked that. And so when I went into high school, I became also a photographer for a newspaper. And I was working with like our local newspapers, like making awful money, but I was like, I don't care, I love it, I'm passionate, and I need to give the people the news. And then so I went into San Francisco State also as a photojournalism major. And it was amazing. I really am grateful for what I got out of that career aspect. I had a really amazing internship with one of San Francisco's biggest newspapers, The Examiner, and so I got to cover, like, obviously it's a city with a lot going on and a lot of eclectic things, so I saw some wild things. I saw old men's butts, I saw professional sports stars, I saw, just such a wide range of amazing events that I got to cover, and I really for a long time thought that that's the path that I wanted to go down, but it was kind of, I think, because I did that internship. It was the summer after sophomore year, so it was like that whole summer that I interned for the newspaper, and like I was going in a couple days a week, and I had like an amazing boss, and she was like such a great mentor for me, and like I learned so much. And then I think I kind of came in it was my junior year, so that's like really when like people are getting into like the core of like their journalism classes. Like I hadn't really done any of my classes yet per se, like for my major, and I don't know, I think things just kind of shifted. Like I was still doing the internship on the side, and I was just like so overwhelmed with like the workload of school and that, and I feel like I just kind of got into like I hit more of a rut, and it was kind of like a turning point where I was like, oh, like maybe like this is not entirely what I want to do. And especially like the news world is just, it's changing a lot, and like I feel like a lot of my professors like just didn't really want to admit that, and like a lot of my professors were like amazing, like they worked at like huge news organizations, but like a while ago, and like a lot of them just like I feel like weren't exactly like able to kind of admit that like things are just going in a different direction now. And like so it's just kind of frustrating because like I could see it, and especially because like Jimmy would come back from like his film classes, and like he'd be like telling me about like all this like cool creative stuff that he was doing, and I was just like, oh, like that sounds like so much fun, like, and like I don't know, it just got to a point where I was just like, I know that like I still want to stick like with storytelling, but like it was just like this whole new world it was opened up to. Like there's like so many different mediums you can do that now, and like obviously news is still like so vastly important, but like there's still like so many issues like that you can get across in like different ways, and especially because like so many people like are watching entertainment and like are watching television, like scripted shows, and like there's just like you can create a narration in so many different ways now. And so thanks to my mans for showing that world to me.
So one thing I wanted to ask, because I actually don't know the answer to this, for you, like, when was like the first time like you started creating something? It could be anything, whether it's your first camera or, because you kind of talked about like yearbook photography, but like, where was your start within this realm?
I think I had gotten, I think my mom and my dad gave me, I think I gotten a camera, like my first DSLR in like 6th grade, and I don't know, just kind of like, as like a lot of kids do, like, oh, like photography, and like I was like, oh, this is really fun, and I love just like taking portraits of like kids like at school and like being able to, and it was exciting to see, like, even if it was just like my middle school yearbook, to like see something like I created like in print. And it's like, like yearbooks are like, people 20 years from now will go back and like look through like their middle school or high school yearbooks, and it's cool, like, oh, like I took that, like, I knew that like I was like, okay, this is something like I want somehow for like something that I've created, like to be shared with others and for people to look back on, for decades to come, or maybe they never look at them. I don't know.
So when you were in college and you were starting to focus on more like film stuff, whatever, did you work on like TV stuff at all, or did you like, were you more comfortable with that? Like, where did you go in that realm while you were in school?
Yeah, so it was kind of probably around the same time that like Jimmy had started PAing on stuff, and like he would come back and just like tell me about like all these like crazy things he had done and like how fun it was, and I was like, oh, like that's wild, like you're literally like the lowest point in this industry, and like you're still like contributing so much, and like you're learning so much, and like, and he was like doing it on the side of like school, and like, so I think it was the CNN gig. He had gotten like a couple of days shoot with CNN, and I honestly don't remember if he actually couldn't take it or if he was just, I think he was being nice. I think he could take it, and he was like, well, like if you want to try it out, like, and I was like, oh, like, okay. But I was like, okay, like it's for CNN, like I've never like been a PA, I've never like done anything film wise, but I was like, it's like somewhat my niche. Like I know about news, and like I watch CNN, like I feel like maybe I can kind of BS my way through it. And she was like, oh, like, do you have a resume? And I like sent over my resume, and it was like all of my like non-film stuff, and like I think she kind of like, the producer was kind of like, oh, okay, but like it was such short notice, like, because Jimmy was just like, oh, I can't take it, like I can't take it. She was like, well, we don't really have anyone else. So I was like, that's fine. And so I went in, and yeah, so the first gig that I PA'd on was it was for like a docuseries for CNN with Van Jones, and we were up like a little bit north of San Francisco. We were actually shooting at the San Quentin prison up there, and so it was, I had like kind of no idea what to expect. Jimmy was like, well, like, to be honest, like, just give it your all. Like, I can't really tell you what's going to happen because it's kind of unpredictable day by day. And he was like, just like go in with confidence and like act like you know what you're doing. So I was like, okay. And it was I think it was a good way to ease in, because like that shoot was a lot of, like I was like a driver. So I was like driving like a minivan, and I was like driving the crew around. And like, I think it was a great intro because like the crew was really nice, and like I got to meet like these producers. Like they were all like, I think the last show they had all worked on like had won a couple Emmys. Like, so I was like in the same car with like these Emmy-winning producers, and I was like, oh, like they're kind of just like normal people that are just like really successful, but they're actually really nice and genuine. And I did that, and I was just like, wow, like this is just like such a different experience from like going out like on like a photojournalism assignment. And I just love like, I love that there was like a feeling of community. Like, I don't know, journalism is a career, like some people really like the fact that like, you're gathering all these facts, and like you're going in like alone to places, and like I thought I had really liked that. Like I thought I had liked like the solitude of it, but then like the second I worked on this shoot, I was like, well, like I love that like each person can still contribute like so much individually, like while you still have like such a great like community around you, and like you're all like cogs in a wheel like working together. So I thought that was cool.
Do you think like was the transition easy going from like working solo photojournalism to working crews and stuff? Like, what was that like?
Oh necessarily say easy. I would just say like it felt right. I was just instantly which I imagine is what kids, who come from more of a film background, like I imagine that's what Jimmy felt like when he first started filming things. And like to me it wasn't necessarily like I picked up a video camera and was suddenly like, I want to make movies. It was more just like, oh, like I don't really know what I want to do yet, but I know that I like this. And like and some kids realize that before they go into college, which is great because then you can go into like go into a film program, go into a communications program. And like for me it was just kind of like everything was just like shifting. And I was, it was kind of at the point where like I had already taken like enough classes to like within my major to like if I wanted to change, like I would have had to stay longer and it just would have been a whole process. And so I was kind of like torn. I was like, okay, well, like I'm just going to stick with it and like, give it like my best for my classes. But I was like, okay, like now I really need to like work like outside of school and like make a name for myself like in this industry that maybe like my degree is not going to line up with. But like as long as I like throw myself into like more of the outside of academics element, like it'll pay off. I hoped, and it did. So
well, I feel like it's a common misconception where like you go to college, you get a degree, and then for the rest of your life you do that degree. Yeah. And like you're like a living example of it where you have a degree, but your current job isn't in that, and that's fine. You still learn things that applied and helped, but it's not like the end all be all. I think that's cool because a lot of people are afraid to just like step away from what they knew, and I think it's cool that partially Jimmy being like, go for it, but also it took a lot from you to just switch, and it's cool that you found the place where you feel at home, at least for now, because you don't know what it's going to be.
Exactly. No, exactly. And I think it's a lot different like in creative fields. Obviously if you spend 10 years trying to be a doctor and you spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in the medical field, like it's a different decision being like, oh, maybe I don't want to be a doctor, maybe I want to be a filmmaker. Like that's a different transition. And like I feel like there would be a lot more pressure on that decision. Like I kind of came in at a good point where it's like, oh, well, I'm graduating anyway. Like most kids don't know what they want to do, but at least like I know what I don't want to do. And like that, like it was, I'm so grateful that like I realized that now. And again, like, I don't know. I still don't know like where I'll end up, but.
Yeah. Well, if anything, you're more versatile. like, cause most comm students, we pick a track and we'll come out with like media production. We don't have the journalism background or stuff like that. So like if something doesn't work out in this field, you can fall back on journalism and have that experience. So
exactly,
it works out better for you anyway.
No, so, and I think everything I did like towards journalism. It's a lot of having to like get out of your comfort zone and like I hated having to interview people. I was like I didn't realize there'd be all these classes where like I'd still have to like talk to strangers. I was like I just wanted to take pictures and like hide behind my camera, but now I'm like so grateful because like all those times like I would have to go into like these terrifying places and like make my way through bushes and like find someone. Like now I'm like okay, like that was like looking back, that was just another skill that like is leading me into this industry where like you do have to make connections with as many people as you can and approach people who are in high positions and like somewhat act like a normal person around them.
So in the last episode, Jimmy had mentioned that you pretty much got your job the day after you graduated. Can you talk to us about like the process behind that?
Yeah. Well, I'd say there was about 99% luck and probably 1% of merit. I think it's funny actually because I had like my position now. I think I had like initially like because when we came back for winter break. We were off for like a month. We came back like the January before we graduated, December, January, and I was even just like looking for like extra work to pick up then because like there's like so many shoots that like only need someone for like a couple days like here and there, and so I was like, oh, like if I could just pick up some work, like make some money. And so I think I was just like scouring online or I like reached out to people, and I think I had like initially applied for like a job over that January that I thought was like shorter. I had like totally misread the date. It was like complete accident, and I like just applied anyway. And then I'd forgotten about it, and like a week or two later, I was already back at school, and my current boss now, he's a production coordinator on the show. He like responded to my email and was like, "Oh, like, would you like to come in for an interview?" And I was like, "Oh, like," and I didn't even know what it was for, and I like saw his signature line. I was like, "Oh, like the talk." I was like, "Oh, like, I didn't want to tell him I was like going back to school, so I was like, oh, like I'm booked on something else. Sorry, like appreciate it. And he was like, oh, like no problem. And then so when like May came, like, and then I mean, I don't know. It's starting. I think it was starting in January. We were like really seriously like applying to jobs and like looking and just like reaching out to people because I was just like just getting anxious and like it was like all the money I spent. I need to pay the money back. So I was just like reaching out to a bunch of people and I was like, oh wait a minute, like there was like that guy who actually had like asked me to come in for an interview. So I like emailed him back and I was like, hey, like I'm coming up available like in like May, like end of May, like do you have anything available? And he was like, oh, like that's funny, you should reach out. Like we actually have like a position like open. He's like, someone just like moved up, so we have a position open. Like you're welcome to come in for an interview. And he was like, oh, can you come in tomorrow at like 1 p.m.? And this was like the day of graduation. And I was like, yeah. So like, I mean, we were kind of planning to leave right after anyway, but then like, it was like in like 2 days. It was like, can you come in 2 days from now? And it was at like 1 p.m. And I was like, yeah. So like the next day we like packed everything. We like graduated. We like packed everything up. And I like made sure I looked presentable that night. And then I went in like 2 days later. And he was like, yeah, like we would love to bring you in like to day play. I was like, okay, like yeah, I'll do anything. Like I'll do whatever. And so like he had me come in to day play. And so I started off day playing for a month. Which, as Jimmy said, it's just kind of stressful. It's like they're analyzing your every move. Like, everyone's sizing up your personality. Like, they're like, oh, this chick's kind of cuckoo, but I don't know. Maybe we'll keep her around. Like, so then, like, week by week, they kind of bring you back. And so then after a month of day playing, they offer me a full-time position. So it's been a wild time since.
I mean, that's just like everybody's dream is to like be graduating college and have to rush away for a job interview.
Yeah,
so
it was just completely
exciting.
surreal. I felt bad because Jimmy's parents were like, oh, Jimmy, is anyone reaching out to you? I'm like, I swear, like, you know how amazing is? Like, they're going to reach out to him too. This was just a fluke. Like,
Not a fluke. You're also talented.
Yeah, but you also kept that connection too, which helped you. So
yeah, and I was just like, oh, like, you know, there's probably nothing available, but, like, you know, what are the odds this would line up? But I was like, what the heck? Like, it takes me 10 seconds to send an email and be like, hey, like, I don't know if you remember me, but, like, and we had, like, never met. It was just, like, an email. Like, he had just asked me for an interview before, and so I was like, oh, well, if you still can hold my place 6 months later.
yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people are scared to do that. Like, just reach out and be like, hey, like, they think it's either rude or whatever. It's like, you don't remember me, but, like, it literally takes 10 seconds to be like, hey, by any chance, whatever. So, yeah, I've seen a lot of people, like, shy away from, like, emailing or reaching out to people because they didn't.
Well, and the beauty of it is, like, because my boss, like, he's production coordinator, and, like, he started as a PA as well. So, like, you know, he worked his way up, and, like, you know, there's a lot of people in the industry that actually do start on the bottom and they do work their way up. And so, like, people are a lot more generous than, like, you would think they would be because, you know, they see someone young and eager and they're like, oh, I remember when I was you. Like, let me help you.
I mean, everybody got on that set somehow, and not everybody already knew someone, so sometimes it is just sending an email.
No, and I was pleasantly surprised, you know, this industry is, like, super intimidating. Like, oh, well, you know, you have to be no such and such's kid, or, like, you know, and obviously, like, I was born and raised in LA. Like, you know, the industry was very, like, prevalent to me, and so I get that, like, you know, that in and of itself is a huge privilege, and, like, you know, a lot of people, I feel like maybe are, you know, more intimidated by the industry, or they think it's a lot more impossible, but I was surprised because even growing up around that, I had seen a lot of people, like, who did know people and who got them because of that, which obviously, but that's with any industry, even in the medical fields, you know, such and such a son becomes a doctor, you know, but you just have to kind of look past that and be like, okay, like, there's still plenty of opportunities, like, for people who are willing to make the effort and willing to work for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you do at your job now? I mean, like, you're a PA, but, like...
Oh, many a things.
Because Jimmy is a cheese ball getter. So
yeah, no, I don't find myself fetching cheese balls all that often. Yeah, we're a little bit different because our show, like, goes, like, live every day. So, like, we're live at 11 a.m. Western time every day. So I have kind of more, I'd say, more of probably a routine than like other PA positions, which has actually been really nice. I help with like our hosts each have like a card like that they read from with like talking points and like with guest questions and whatnot. So I help make those, and there's always like a lot of changes coming in, like sometimes at the last second. So I'm usually like sprinting up and down between like the room where we make the cards and like stage. What else do we do? I'm on vacation mode. I'm like, what do I do at the office? I'd say Jimmy does more runs than us, but we do still have a decent amount of runs. Like standard like lunch runs and like getting supplies and just like, it's just a lot of just like something could happen at any moment and just like be prepared to get it. But there also is a nice sense of routine, and like I think each of the PAs, like we have like different strong suits, and so like there's like different things that each of the PAs themselves do. Just like a lot of things. Many things.
Yeah. I mean, that I don't know. That it's like you're very like you're so fortunate to like I'm so jealous that you were able to start off like that. I don't know. It's hard to think of I don't know how to even approach applying for those things like where I am now. So
Yeah.
it's kind of cool to like hear.
You
like,
just have to, I think, I mean, because even when, like, it was summer after junior year, and Jimmy and I had applied to, like, a bunch of, I think I had applied to, like, 56 internships, because I was like, oh, like, and internships are great, like, especially like, if you go to college, and, like, you know, because there's certain internships you can only apply to, like, while you're a student. So I say, like, by all means, take advantage of that. But I had applied to so many, and, you know, that was kind of the time where I had realized I wanted to be, like, in entertainment, but I didn't, like, quite have, like, you know, the resume for it. So, like, I think when I kind of just applied, like, into the abyss for, like, those positions, they were like, oh, well, like, we'd rather have, like, a student who has this. I mean, I don't really know how they pick them. Basically, none of them wanted me. None of them wanted me. So I was like, well, there's nothing happening. So I think I found something on like Facebook, and it was like a position for a PA, like and it didn't say what show it was. It was just like 6 weeks, like Brooklyn, New York, like costume production assistant. I was like, I've never done this in my life, but I was like, what the heck? And so I reached out to the coordinator who had put it up. I like sent her my resume. I might have maybe beefed it up a little bit and like sent her like a nice friendly message. And there were like so many other people who had like commented on it, and it was like, oh, like starting in like 3 days. I was like, well, you know, it starts in 3 days. What the heck? I don't have a plane ticket. And like, it's just was like this crazy stroke of luck. I don't really know what made her pick me. Her name was Kira, and I'm Mira, so maybe she was like, oh. And she like called me for like a FaceTime interview, and we like talked for like 20 minutes, and she was like, yeah, like, so like are you in New York? And I was like, oh, well, like, I'll be back in New York. Like, I'm actually on the West Coast right now. But, yeah, I'll be back. And she was like, okay, like, it starts on Monday. Like, we would love to have you. So it was, like, that Saturday. I hung up the phone. I, like, called my mom and was like, well, I'm moving to New York for the next 6 weeks. I, like, booked a flight. It was, like, absurdly expensive. I put it on my credit card. My credit card was not happy with it. But I was like, well, you know, they'll be getting interest from me. You know, everyone's benefiting here. And I told Jimmy, and he was like, okay, like, I'll come out too. And he didn't have anything. He was like, I'll figure it out. And like, that's when he ended up also working on like it ended up being a Netflix production for Spike Lee. And so I like walk into this production office on a Monday. She's like, oh yeah, so like this is like Spike Lee's like TV show. I was like, what?
Like, oh.
And then I was there for 6 weeks, like working on it, like working directly, like with these huge big name actors, and like with this, it was the costume department had done like BlacKkKlansman, like, and like so many amazing other films. And I don't know, it was just like you just have to do things that are just like crazy.
I mean, and that started from like a Facebook post too. Like, that's
yeah,
insane.
and it's just like you know, you just have to not be intimidated by like what are the odds, you know, because if it's something's meant to be, like obviously like it's gonna manifest. So sometimes you just have to throw a little bit on your credit card and then have a little bit of faith in the universe. And
yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot that, like, you just have to take literally anything.
Yeah.
And it could, like, lead to something really great. So that's pretty much, like, the best example of it. Like, you just hopped on a plane in New York, and it just happened to be Spike Lee's production.
Like, I never. And a week before that, I was, like, moping around, looking at, like, everyone at their cool new summer internships. So it was, like, I didn't even get a rejection email from any of them. None of them even responded. I'm like, you couldn't even send me a thank you so much for applying. Like, a mass email. No one even sent me a mass email.
Yeah.
So I was just moping around.
Hey, then you worked on the Spike Lee joint.
I sure did.
Yeah.
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 So then now, like, we asked Jimmy this, we ask everybody this. So, like, obviously it's, like, a hard question to answer because it's always changing. But you look prepared.
No.
It's not like you sat in on his episode or anything.
But
it's fine.
For you, like, at the end of the day, like, where do you want to be in your career? And if you don't have a definitive answer, that's cool, too. But, like, just a job you'd like to do.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know. And Jimmy's always like, no, you need to have a refined, you need to tell people, make people think that you know what you're doing. And I'm like, like, honestly, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I think that's the beauty of it, is, like, being, coming in, starting at the bottom is, like, every day I'm just, like, learning so much about, like, what each position does, and especially, like, being on a talk show and, like, how those positions differ from, like, because I worked on the reality and I worked on scripted, and, like, it's just, like, seeing, like, the different roles, like, there's, like, these terms, like, oh, a producer, but it's, like, a producer, like, can mean so many different things, and, like, and there's, like, so many different levels of producer, like, and each level does different things, and so I don't know, but I mean, that's the beauty of it, is I'm learning. I mean, I came in, like, before, like, I realized I wanted to transition to this, I was like, okay, like, I have, like, such a concrete goal. Like, my dream was to, like, work for the LA Times, like, as a photographer, and that was, like, all I wanted to do. And, like, and then everything shifted, and now I'm just, and I was just, like, I think I spent too much time just, like, obsessing over, like, having such a concrete goal. Like, I remember I would, like, go on, like, I would always spend so many hours, like, looking at, like, professional photographers, like, websites, and being like, oh, I have to emulate, like, the way they got there, but, like, especially with, like, this industry, and, like, anyone you meet will be like, well, there's, like, a bunch of ways to get to where you want to be, and sometimes, and, like, some people I've met in their roles, they're like, oh, I started out wanting to do this, and, like, now I do this, and I love my job, so I think, like, my plan is to just keep working at it, and just kind of really see what my niche is, and be willing to be thrown into a different one, so...
I think the point that you brought up about, like, the concrete goal and everything, like, I think a lot of us have gone through that, like, me specifically. My only goal throughout college was to intern with Jimmy Fallon, and, like, I didn't get it, and I was, like, so heartbroken. Yeah, like, what do I do now? And, like, I think that you saying that, and, like, you being able to go out and get another, like, huge thing, and it to become your new life, like, I think that gives us, the ones that, like, didn't get their concrete goal, like, hope that you're just gonna, like, find something else that's gonna be great. Exactly. So yeah, no, that really hit me, so thank you for putting that out there.
That was a sweet moment.
Yeah, no, I heard that, I was like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, no, I mean, and now, I mean, like, I think it's still interesting to see what people's paths are. Like, I love to read, like, the autobiographies of, like, female comedians. Like, I love, like, Tina Fey's book, and, like, just to, like, see, and it's, like, it's interesting because, they talk, you see people who are in positions of power, and, like, who, especially people who are, like, celebrities, like actors and actresses, and you think, like, oh, well, like, they must have never failed, like, they must have never, and it's amazing how much you, like, more you read into it, like, you see how people have failed so many times, and, like, just not gotten that dream job, like, oh, but, like, I need to be on this, like, I need to do that, and it's, like, and it's soul crushing, but, like, the more your soul is crushed, like, I think the more you want to work to rebuild it so it gets crushed a little bit less. No, but really, I mean, people in all positions of power, like, no matter how much money or status they have, like, and failure is different for everyone. So, like, people have failed a lot before they've really made anything of themselves. So it's kind of the beauty of it, the mess.
Yeah, I love the fact that you're just so open to it, just, like, whatever. Because, I mean, like 4 years ago when you started school, you wouldn't have imagined working on Spike Lee's show.
No, never, ever.
So, and it's just cool that it's just working out, too. I mean, it's not just, like, happening.
Yeah.
Like, you put in a lot of hard work, too, of course.
Yeah, but, I mean, it's just still so much more work to go. I mean, like, to me, I'm like, it's amazing that, like, I'm literally in, like, the lowest position in this business and, like, still, like, learning so much and, like, growing so much every day. I'm like, you know, I just can't wait to see, like, how much more there is to get out of it, you know? It's like, no matter where I end up, like, and, you know, it's like, you know when, like, you're when you're unhappy doing something. So it's like, and especially, like, I knew when I was like, okay, I'm not happy with this career path, so let me shift. And so I think you kind of just have to trust your gut and know that, like, if you're going down a path you don't want to, like, you have to be willing to relocate, but, like, you will. Like, you just have to trust yourself a little bit. I'm working on it. Do I trust me? Do I trust you? Yeah, I trust me.
That's a mood.
Yeah, that is definitely a mood.
Yeah. So, like I said last episode, one thing that we're going to start doing more is bringing some of our old Q&A questions back to the lovely brain we have on each episode. So, do you want to read off the question?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're doing the same exact question we asked Jimmy.
Because it's a fire question.
It is.
Once
It
again,
is.
thank you, Cameron, for that question.
Yes, absolutely.
Jimmy Ward is my inspiration.
To be fair, we gave them the choice of the questions that
Yes.
we've already answered. So this one, I mean, it's just a deep question. So do you find that the desire to be perfect hinders your ability to create, and how do you handle it?
Yeah, and so I think I didn't realize that I would touch on it more than I thought I would. But like I said, I mean, when I was, like, a photojournalist, like, especially, like, you know, creating, like, art in a sense, like, I feel like it's really easy to be critical on yourself, because I was always just like, oh, like, how do I make my pictures look like, you know, like this photographer, and how do I make, you know, and I think I just, like, spent so much time obsessing over that, and, like, now it's like, it's kind of the beauty of, like, not exactly knowing what necessarily I would like to do, because, you know, it's less time. Like, if I knew, like, okay, I want to be a director, like, I feel like I would just get lost in, like, oh, like, how does Scorsese do it, you know? And it's like, the thing is, like, that's like with this industry, like, it's no one else, like, people don't like these famous directors because they're like other ones, you know? It's like, you have to just kind of find your own style, and, like, so I do spend a lot of time obsessing over things still, you know, and, like, even when I read, like, these books of, like, these celebrities, I'm just like, oh, but, like, they didn't get this job, but then they got this one, and I'm like, by the time they were 23, I'm, like, already looking at, like, the age span. I'm like, okay, so in 6 years, I had to work here, and, like, so I totally still do get caught up in that, but I'm trying to less so, and it's kind of like, with, you know, without, like, having the beauty of not having that, like, concrete goal is, like, it's easier for me to, like, allow for imperfections and, like, allow to just life to come in and say, okay, we're gonna live like this.
Oh, it's a pretty good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. They both had really great answers
They
for
did.
this. So
Thanks, y'all.
And I think it's interesting to look at it from your point of view, too, because you've done it in so many different ways now, of, like, working on Jimmy's film as an assistant director. Like, that is one of the toughest jobs on a film set. And, like, no offense to Jimmy, he's excellent at what he does, but I don't know if that production would have went through without Mira being
Oh,
there.
no, I think it would have.
But you also kept us on track the entire time.
Thank you.
When we were
Appreciate
getting
that.
excited, setting up the lights, you were like, guys, we need to start filming now. Like, come on, like, actors are ready.
My boyfriend's impatient, so I think I just get that from him.
But
You
yeah.
Jersey people, you're all like, chop chop.
Yeah, we are. We're fast.
yeah,
I'm like, California. But when I get that Jersey energy, I'm like, okay.
You're like ready to go.
it's
Time's
a thing.
ticking.
It's a thing.
It is a thing.
It's like completely different mindset over here. It's
Yeah.
And then I watch a lot of my New Jersey friends go out to California, and they're like, I have to hustle, I have to do this, and then everybody else is like, calm down, like, you don't, you're good. So yeah, no, that's a thing. It's
Yeah.
great.
Alrighty, Mira. Well, before we go, I want you to take a look at that camera right there and tell the lovely people where they can find you, wherever.
Where can you find me? This is
Instagram,
Yeah, I'm not
whatever.
gonna give out my home address.
Well, you don't have to do that.
Where can you find me? I have a website. I haven't used it in a while, to be completely honest. It is miralang.com. Has my old photography on there if you want to take a gander down the old road down there. I have an Instagram. It's Mira Mira on the wall. 3 L's. 2 L's is already taken. I've tried fighting her for it. She will not relinquish the title. So Mira Mira on the wall. 3 L's. I wouldn't say I'm like creating much work, but you might see some random videos of me and my life. So that's exciting.
Yeah,
I think my life is exciting. I do live it, so I'm probably the most qualified to say how it's lived.
I mean, your Instagram stories are always very entertaining.
Well, thank you, Luke. I'm glad I'm not the only one who finds myself entertaining.
Yeah.
It helps to have a second or third person. No more than that's needed, but...
Yes.
Yeah. Also, the talk.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The talk.
Oh, yeah, you can watch The Talk.
The talk.
Live on CBS at it's 11, no, we go, okay. 2 p.m. Eastern is when we're
Ayo,
live.
shout out.
But West Coasters, you don't get to see it until 1 p.m. Pacific time.
Ooh.
Oh, or you can come to a taping. I can hook you up.
There you go.
Come be in the audience.
Well, Mira, thank you for being on. You are
Thank you
now
guys for having
the
me.
guest who has traveled the farthest to be on this podcast.
Whoa! Don't get anybody from anywhere else then.
Oh, yeah.
I want
No.
that title forever.
I'm pretty sure you'll have it for a long time.
I
so-
sure hope so.
From LA, I don't think anybody's
Yeah.
going to beat that.
Unless we have an out-of-country guest.
No.
No.
Tell them they're not welcome.
No.
Oh, yeah. Nope. Sorry.
more.
No more.
Only American citizens.
Yes.
No, I'm kidding. I'm totally
That
kidding
was so
about
random.
that. That was
Yeah.
just
But again, thank you, Mira.
Thank you guys.
And good luck on all your work, too. We hope
Thank
it
you.
goes well.
Yes.
We can't wait to hear updates.
I have to wake up so early on Monday.
Alrighty. Well, thank you, everybody,
you.
for watching or listening, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Now, that's the second pod of the day.
second part.
2 pods.
Hey,
2
Jimmy's
pods.
on the side clapping.